Hey guys, we've got a special one for you today. We're looking at some beginner exercises for the one-arm handstand. I won't be doing it though, I'll be throwing it over to my good friend Kane, how long did we work out you've been doing handstands for?
It's been about 13, 14 years.
Yeah, which is as long as we've known each other as well. So Kane's put a lot of hours in, and the reason why I wanted to do this video is because Kane's really good at handstands. And I look at the one-arm handstand as the equivalent to how I look at the one-arm pull. So the one-arm pull, when you master it, you have this insane ability, individual to each shoulder, to retract and engage that shoulder. So it makes your body really efficient, really good at pulling. The one-arm handstand is the opposite. It really optimizes your ability to protract the shoulder, which overlaps into other skills like the clean and jerk and any other movement that just involves you to engage your shoulder in that protraction. So we're not working up to doing the one-arm handstand today, but we're showing those initial phases, those initial exercises you can do that will physically prime your body for the one-arm handstand if you choose to go down that route. And if not, these are brilliant exercises to work up to that and to optimize and to teach your body how to protract efficiently. So how many exercises do we have today? Three exercises.
With a couple of variations in between those three, yeah.
Awesome. So we're going to throw over to Kane now.
Yeah,
Take it away.
Cheers, Tyson. So, yeah, we're going to go through basically some prep drills for that shoulder position in the one-arm handstand. And there's three exercises with a couple of variations in between them. So what I'll probably do is explain, exercise one, demonstrate it, and then move on from there. So the first one we're going to do is just actually working through our transitions. And the variations within there is just against the wall. We'll be using the wall a lot today because we're going to take the skill element out of it and just focus on the strength and the positioning of the shoulder. And your transitions, we're just going to focus on taking our opposite hip and lining it over the shoulder. And then we can go to just fingertips. So we're just rocking side to side onto fingertips. And then you can progress it to the elbow taps, and then you can progress it to the shoulder taps. So I'll show you what I mean. Your feet can be straight or straddled, it's up to you. But from here, I'm going to walk my hands into a wall. My toes are likely going to be on the wall here. Then what I want to try and do is just think on tipping my hips over to the side, and I can just rock up onto the fingers there. Take the hips over to the side, pushing. I'm pushing strong through this supporting shoulder. From there I can increase the intensity of this by elbow tap, pushing through the supporting shoulder, elbow tap, or I can start to work through my
Come and get a side view as well.
Shoulder tap. So yeah, just the toes lightly touching the wall. So I'm not focusing too much on the balance aspect, more just focusing on that shoulder.
So your hands are pretty close to the wall, yeah?
Yeah, relatively close. It'll all depend on your shoulder mobility as well.
And you had your legs together. You said you could do straddle altogether.
Yeah.
But we were talking the other day and we said straddle's probably best for just kind of spreading your whole base and spreading your weight across.
It's like sort of putting your hands out for balance.
Yeah.
So if I was to balance on one foot, it's probably a little bit harder to keep my arms in here like this. Most people put their arms out for a bit of balance. It's the same on one arm. It's a bit easy to have these sort of limbs out for balance, but I'm just stacking the opposite joints into position. Wherever I'm straight, it might change a little bit, but yeah, I'm just trying to stack those joints on top of each other.
Yeah, so and I suppose it is important just to be looking at that exercise, but in terms of technique, what should they be thinking of when they're up? Not just in that exercise, but for all of these that we're doing. It's that, well, you can explain it better, but that protraction of the shoulder. Yeah. Well, I mean, ideally before you start going into all of the single arm drills, I suppose we should have prefaced the whole lot of before we're going into single arm drills is to have this really nice
sort of elevation of the shoulders in a two-handed handstand. So it's nice to be able to have, your handstands are all about alignment. It's not much to do with muscular strength as much as it is to do with trying to get the mobility to be able to line the points up, and then from there you can work this shoulder elevation, but still with your lats engaged, your shoulder blade sort of protracted and elevated. And then from there you can start to, once you've got that nice base position, you can start to then play with this, the one arm position where you have to put that stress, more stress going through that shoulder joint.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that transition drill is one. Like I said, you can go to fingertips to start, elbows as an intermediate position, and then shoulders as a more advanced position. Apart from the transitions, the next drill to do is to actually just line up and work on your holds. So just coming across, and whether it's fingertips or hand on the wall or hand by the side, we're just going to work on stacking some weight to the shoulder and holding that position. So I'll do an open straddle for this one, just to get a feel for it. So I'll get my hands in there. I'll just go into an open straddle, and I'm going to think on trying to push through the supporting shoulder, and I'm going to take the feet across and try and line that hip up. And then from there, I'm pushing through the shoulder here. I can take this arm out to the side, and I can work a little bit of time on that shoulder there.
Any suggestion on amount of time, or just go to when you're not failing with that protraction and build up the time from there?
You want to maintain the technique. So it can be anywhere between, I suppose you'd want to get a minimum of 10 seconds or so on there, and then build up slowly. You can do 10 seconds to 30 seconds, or anywhere between 10 seconds to 60 seconds, depending what your goal is. But you'd want to pull up before you're starting to lose integrity and shape. So you want to be able to hold, go for a sub-maximal effort. You can still pull back with maybe 5 or 10 seconds to spare of good form. And yeah, maybe do, if you're doing if you're just new to it, you might just do 2 sets of say 10 to 30 seconds, or you might progress to say anywhere between 3 to 5 sets of 10 to 30 second efforts over time. Yeah.
And in terms of optimizing the ability to protract in the hold, the exercise you just did, is it best to do your set on one arm, come down, do your set on the other arm, or is it best to go 10 seconds, transfer 10 seconds, or is it just? It's
much of a muchness in much of a muchness really. So depending on your experience, you might, if it's only very new experience, you might do the one arm and come down to get the blood flow back down and resettle. But I mean, maybe if you're looking at performing eventually and you're going to be up for a long time on your hands, it can be good endurance to go from one side, back in, straight to the other side. Back in, straight to the other side, and you could do something like that as well. So it's just specific to what goals you want. Yeah, so a complete beginner would probably want to do it on one arm, come down, rest, and then you build from there. And then
that's
reset
like
again.
The ultimate stuff.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. And the third drill, so we've had our transitions, we've had our static hold, and the third drill, there's a little bit of equipment in here. So I'll come to here, we've got these blocks. So I've just got like these little hand balancing blocks here. There's all sorts of variations. You can just actually make these, get some wood from Bunnings and sort of round out some corners if you want. You can use books. If you've got 2 books that are sort of about the same thickness, you can use books. Little weight plates, if you put weight plates down. Just something to basically walk onto and off. Again, all of these drills can be done freestanding if that's where your skill level's at, but for today we're just using the wall to take the skill element out of it and just condition the shoulder. So from here, what I'll do is I'll actually have these blocks out a little bit wider than my normal handstand position, because I'm going to actually walk onto them and then walk back in between. So I'm training that shoulder joint just outside of its usual handstand range of motion, so to try and stabilize. So I'll have these here, and all we're going to do, so I'm going to be to here. Again, you can have your legs straddled if you want, but my hips are going to have to transfer across. So my weight's pushing through this shoulder, and then I'm going to get my hips across, and I'm going to have to push strong and through. And I'm just working through. So again, just working, pushing through the shoulder, and back down and back down. So it's just getting these shoulders basically just strengthening through that range, and it's also just getting me used to going side to side with these hips and stuff as well. So yeah, so those are three pretty basic sort of elements, especially when you do them against a wall, to just strengthen this sort of protraction and elevation of the shoulder joint. First things first, though, as we said earlier, is to probably try and get the requisite mobility. There's no point trying to drive protraction and drive this lift through the shoulders if you can only get your shoulder into this position. Your first goal would be to be able to get your shoulders nice and actively engaged in this position first. Once you can reach this position here, then you can start to load it. So yeah, get that mobility and stability first, and then load it against the wall. Cool.
Awesome. And just Kane mentioned you can get those blocks from any kind of. I'm just thinking, because if Americans are watching it, they're like, Bunnings.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
From a hardware store, or if you find wood. But we also had some weight plates. So if you're at a gym, you can. I don't know if you can see them, but just
dumbbells,
standard plates, dumbbells, books, anything like that, just so you can, how would you say, climb up and climb back down.
Yep.
From my perspective, not being able to do a one arm, and only so many times I could probably count on one hand I've kind of approached this skill. The main things for me, coming from that beginner perspective, to focus on, and you can tell me if you would agree with this or not, is that protraction in the shoulder. When you're actually up there, you're thinking you're trying to reach or just extend, make your body as long as possible, with it being centered around how you're thinking about it, through the shoulder, just trying to stretch it as much as you can. And then the other thing is the stacking.
Yep.
So when you're actually up there, because I liked how you said make sure that the hips are over the shoulder, and you could actually look. I was looking through the video, seeing that your hips were directly above your shoulder, and I think that's something that a lot of beginners get wrong. Is they may be thinking about that protraction, but they're not thinking about how they're stacking when they're actually up in it. So I definitely recommend film yourself when you're doing this, so that you can see if your hips are stacking over your shoulder and your shoulder is stacking over your hand. They're probably the two things I would think of to focus on when you're doing these things.
Yeah, but I suppose there's a lot of understanding going to the elevation and protraction of it. I suppose a lot of things I hear is about like the ear to shoulder, but you want to, I suppose, it's hard to say because it's a different, you've got to learn to be able to keep this lat, like push from sort of underneath here, because there's a difference between that's fully lifted and elevated, but I can also, and that's not, I don't want to be here. So if you can see I've disengaged my shoulder, there's no tension here.
Yeah.
So, pushing through your shoulder, I can reach like this, but that's not beneficial. I still want to be what they call is like a packed shoulder, like, that scapula, that shoulder blade wrapping around here, and then from here with this locked in, then I'm pushing. So it's a very stable structure with stability through here, and not just ear to shoulder, as don't be too literal with the ear to shoulder cue. Is probably a nice one to focus on as well,
And I'm pretty sure Kane mentioned it, but we should probably say this as well, is we're not recommending you, or I'm not recommending you jump the handstand. Obviously the one arm handstand is a specific skill that requires a lot of time and effort to get. You can't just practice it for a week and then voila, you've got one arm handstand. It requires a lot of work, a lot of patience, a lot of time and effort. But what I love about doing this kind of video, which I've also done with, say, the Maltese cross on rings or iron cross, is you don't need to be committed in the sense to, I want to train the iron cross because I want to get the iron cross. You can tell me if this makes sense, this thought.
Yeah.
is there's ways to break down these advanced skills to get those prerequisite benefits that can be applied or make you physically better across the board without having to achieve the skill. So for Iron Cross, it was the straight arm strength it gives you, even in the prerequisite exercises. Just like this one arm handstand, it's the ability it gives you to protract and control the shoulder, this whole area here. It's so beneficial, and you don't need to have the one arm handstand. You can just train these prerequisites to prepare your body for it. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
The rambling man struck again.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I wanted to do this video. Thanks so much for putting the time aside to do it, Kane. I think it's not all about me. I want to be able to bring people onto the channel that have knowledge vaster than mine in other areas. So more people can benefit from more things from this channel. So thanks so much for coming in. Thanks to, it's been on the wall this whole time, the collective on the Central Coast. If you are on the Central Coast in Australia, in New South Wales, come by and check out the collective. Kane's here pretty often. You'll see him. You can do some of Kane's classes. They are awesome. We've been training here for the last maybe month or so, smashing it, which has been really good on this vertical jump program I'm developing. Did you have anything you wanted to plug, like your Instagram, or I can put it in the description down below?
Yeah, oh look, I mean, yeah, you can find me on Wildside Hybrid Conditioning on Instagram. So that's my Instagram page. You'll see a few cool things floating around on there, but yeah.
Yeah, I will put it down below. I have massive respect for what Kane does in the movement world, so it would be awesome to maybe get him on for some more videos at some point. If you got something out of the video, give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you for the next one.